So the element that we wanted to go over today, again, is really about introducing an item called Tuition Kit, because as you probably saw from the face of the support email, we were looking for ways that we can actually really help teachers in this period. And so Tuition Kit is one of those truly free items, not free for a while, free if a bit, free if you share this many. It's a truly free item, which hopefully, you know, I've got to show it to Ross before, and obviously we've had 500,000 users of it and hundreds of schools. It was always a paid product, but we've taken the decision this year to become free. And so Ross and I will be taking you through.
Yeah, I mean, earlier when I said to Liam, what, are you giving this away to teachers for free? And he went, yeah. And I went, wow. I'm looking forward to you all seeing it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it did. I'm really, really hoping it helps. I really appreciate you saying that. I really, really look forward to you guys taking it on, and hopefully it being used in your schools as well. So just a little bit about where we are and what we've been doing, so you know a little bit of us. We've had over 500,000 students using Tuition Kit. We were actually built out of YouTube. This part of what we used to do. It started in 2009, believe it or not, back when YouTube was still, much more about cat videos than it was about educational videos. And we developed from there, and we've done a lot of English, math, science. And really what we're about is encouraging video use. I don't know how you feel about this, Ross, but I think that video is really the pioneering future of education. I think so much is going to be core.
Well, let's face it, it's been around for a good 20 years. You know, I think COVID has made us all have to catch up in some shape or form. I think, you know, safeguarding is a very, very important issue. That still needs to be considered, but there's the amount of use of technology, at least to improve teaching or to support kids, whether there's a pandemic or not. I think there's no escaping the fact that we do need to consider using it as a tool to improve our teaching or to support our children. I mean, virtual schools have been around for 10 plus years at least. So yeah, if that answers the question, there you go. There's no escaping it, and we do need to consider how best to use it. And the training. I know as a school leader myself, the training for IT has always been, in my experience, bottom of the pecking order. And I know a lot of schools have spent a lot of time helping teachers catch up over the last 6 months.
Yeah, the live video format and the pre-recorded video format, and hopefully the 3D video format, they're all going to kind of have their place. And you're right, safeguarding's a huge problem on the live. And obviously we've seen some risks. I was on a webinar the other day where someone porn bombed it. They just Zoom bombed the room and then just put some really, really explicit pictures. You're just thinking, if I was teaching right now, I'd be in all sorts of. But the videos that we're going to be looking at today, colleagues, is encouraging you to make your own that are going to be pre-recorded and to be shared. We also do a lot of teacher training. We work in 700 schools across the world to do teacher training. So we're going to give you a short history of how things come about, some key features, looking beyond video, and looking at these free tools, things that you can take away and use from today, really, in making videos and how to organize videos with your staff and with your students. So yeah, we've moved it to a free product, and just wanted to kind of start now with thinking of that in mind, where the world is. And obviously Ross gets to speak to hundreds of teachers every day and gets to see and keep his finger on the pulse with so much of what's going on. So what do you think the world is, Ross?
Well, I try. The best analogy I've heard is that we're all on a ghost train. We're all committed to the ride. We know that there's going to be a scare or someone's going to jump out on us, but we don't know when it's going to happen. But I think, already, if not most people, all of us at some point will experience, sadly, a case in our school. And where we've been let down, essentially, is all our schools, head teachers have worked tirelessly to get things moving back to some form of normality, but already exhaustion and being let down by the testing and tracing issues, which seems to be the greatest challenge. I've got a really nice tweet from a head teacher, kind of just like reminding us of what schools, what leaders can at least do to support their staff during a time of high anxiety. And I've been out to one or two of the local schools where I now live just to kind of check in, say hello, be at least a port of call for the long term, never mind during the pandemic. And the head teacher said, these kind of things, deliver the basics really well. Don't burden your teachers with anything else that's not essential, which I love. 2, look after your cleaning team, so the people that are doing all the hygiene stuff behind the scenes. 3, make sure your cover duties remain high profile. I know when I was a deputy head in a large secondary school, 250 staff and 1,800 kids, no matter what strategic things I put in place to support planned absence as well as unplanned absence, it was a nightmare on the best of days. So right now, I suspect, especially in bubbles with reducing numbers of people that you can use for cover, it's going to be incredibly stressful on everybody. Next top tip was kind of high profile, just walking the corridors, checking in with people, how are you, those types of things. I mean, that's a great leadership tip at any time, but especially now. Definitely means saying thank you. And, top tip, I'm very active on social media, and if it's any kind of solace for people listening, my Twitter activity gets at least 10 million impressions a month. Right now, it's almost silent, and it suggests to me, my doctoral research at Cambridge is looking at teacher behaviours through social media, their teacher voice, how that unlocks their potential, those types of things. And my particular focus is on how it influences policy. But right now, this Twitter activity is almost silent, and it kind of suggests to me that people are so exhausted. They go home, catch up, plan next day, go to bed. They're just trying to deal with looking after themselves and their kids and responding to daily testing and, new cases, those types of things. So I guess my tip there is avoid social media and news stories and go to your key sources of information, your school leadership team and official government guidance for the latest news. So I hope that helps everybody.
Yeah, that's one of the many things that people need to take in, as obviously what you touched upon there, new ways of working, the exhaustion level people are feeling. And I think one of the things that people have been doing in that is the level and amount that they've actually had to try and transition and take on board as well, those new skills. So there's so much that people are doing in the way that they're changing and what they're having to learn, etc., etc. And I think one of the main reasons we wanted to do this was to look at how we can support people in having some new tools for free to help them deliver and do the best that they can and everything. Because I think how much you say there as well, how people are reacting to everything as well at the moment. There's a lot of big reaction to government changing policies. Scotland just this week, as you mentioned earlier. They've announced their position on the exams for next year. It's only a matter of time before England follows suit. It's just when it's going to happen, I suspect. And giving teachers, parents and pupils a sense of clarity for the year ahead, and allow us to just get on with keeping communities safe. We strip everything away. At this particular time, we've got to look after our teachers' mental health. We've already got a recruitment crisis. Although with the impact of people losing their jobs and income elsewhere in other industries, we've got the highest applications ever. So we're going to have a boom of teachers. Whether they stay in the long term, we don't know. But we've got the current cohort that are probably wanting to gap the years or trying to find a way to go part-time or escape because of the anxiety. But, the exams have stripped things away. We've got to look after our kids' mental health and, the whole vulnerable children, disadvantaged kids. That's where my heart lies, and I suspect the vast majority of teachers. In terms of new skills, I've been doing webinars for 10 years, so I wasn't necessarily, obviously my whole physical work switched to online very quickly, but I didn't feel like I was out of date. I guess where I had to spend my time and effort was learning Zoom, Microsoft Teams, Google Classroom, the different kind of portals. And I guess maybe a question for people in the chat box is, what was ICT training and all these bits of software that we all use? Was it always given a good priority, or was it literally, here's a new bit of software, here's an hour demo, go off and play with it, and now you're an expert at using it, and contact the IT support team if you need help? And for me, that's my own experience, but I suspect it's many others, and you'll get one or two beacon schools that are excellent at supporting their teachers with devices. I'm a huge fan of visualizers. I'm just going to grab one. Hold on. These, again, I've been using these for 15 years. These little visualizers. I've seen them in some schools. Great for social distancing. Great for modeling work under the camera. They're a small cost, but regardless of the pandemic, even more important right now. But they're a great tool to kind of unlock assessment in the classroom. Great for modeling.
So I hope some schools tuning in already have those bits of equipment.
I think that's actually one of the kind of, in summing these three items, you can see here that education delivery is really changing. And obviously you see hundreds of people creating videos now and obviously being in front of their Zoom calls and the rest. And I think what we're going to show you today is a little bit part of that. Another way to, you can actually have a tool where you can kind of master and change education delivery, going a little further and a little harder into it. And so what the kind of the basic philosophy here is, your teacher is sometimes only as good as their tools. You know, if you don't have something in front of you, then you can't actually execute the ideas and the kind of learning delivery that you want. As Ross said there with the visualizer. In fact, Roger, I only got into visualizers within the last year, to be honest with you.
Right, okay.
But yeah, it basically just gives you a mini whiteboard right in your hand, and for doing online lessons, it just replaces the whiteboard. It's superb. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking, with how much video has been captured recently, there's so much there where people are trying to capture knowledge, and there's so much out there that already exists. And I think that's going to be one of the key things, and I really like your thoughts on this, Ross. I think the way people teach is going to change because of the availability of so much prior content. I don't think teachers will need to teach the basics as much. I think we'll be much more in this second phase of teaching and feedback. Well, what are your thoughts on that?
Can I, we've got this new term that's evolved called the recovery curriculum, and you'll have some schools that are driving the English maths agenda, the core subjects, stripping back some option blocks to help kids cope. I can kind of understand that, but again, if we if we take away the league tables, the examinations, we want to get, help kids with their mental health, their self-regulation, to love to learn, to love their pupil next door to them, so they can, learn to have meaningful conversations and contribute to society. But that recovery curriculum for me is, particularly right now, managing kids' mental health and just being back into school, with all the other things that are going on, but just as a 1st of September, getting kids back, seeing their faces again after 6 months, must have been a wonderful feeling for the vast majority of teachers. And it's trying to sustain that, at least now. I don't know what people would say in the chat box, but I've heard, I'm dealing with schools all around the world, not just in England. I'm working with schools in, Hong Kong, South Korea, Taiwan, South Africa, Dubai. And some schools in the Far East have been in lockdown since January and still aren't yet back at school, and they're still teaching remotely. Then you've got the whole plethora of virtual schools where kids have always just been working online, whether they are maybe, those children that are sometimes little film stars or in sport, and they're always out of school and connecting online with virtual tutors. And plus you've got the whole industry of tutoring. But I think recovery curriculum, we probably just need to focus on just managing kids' mental health, looking at the kind of social, emotional aspects of learning, and then bringing slowly into your maths, English, and your creative subjects. I'm a big fan of creative subjects. But one thing I just want to mention with recovery curriculum is everything I read in academic world about effectiveness of teaching and learning, it all goes back to retrieval practice. And retrieval, teachers call it revision, cognitive scientists call it retrieval practice. The earliest reference to retrieval practice in any academic space is pretty much either 1909, Edwina Abbott, or Ebbinghaus, which is the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve, if people are aware of that. And that's 1895. And it's about how we remember to do stuff, to tie your lace, 2 + 2 = 4, how to ride a bike, what is the largest volcano in the world. That's recalling knowledge. Now, if you look at research and retrieval, it's not about always just chucking new stuff in, hence curriculum content. It's about retrieving things that you already know to build up schema. And that schema supports other aspects of, I kind of visualize it as a bit of a spider web with lots of different connections. That's how my scheme of how I remember building up memory. And in terms of recovery curriculum, we shouldn't necessarily, I promoted this all throughout lockdown, we shouldn't necessarily be adding to teachers' workload by always having to teach kids more stuff. We should help them recap on things they've already know, to quiz them, to help it within their long-term retention, and then slowly add in new material rather than just, here's a new worksheet, here's a new textbook, here's a new PowerPoint, which we always do. And often the myths associated with learning, particularly from people outside of the education sector and even children is, oh, Mr. Mughil, we've done this lesson before, we've seen that, we've done that, when actually they don't necessarily know it. So for people listening and watching, you know, I don't know what your school in terms of a knowledge-rich curriculum and what your awareness and retrieval practice is or memory, but it doesn't necessarily mean with this recovery curriculum that we should be just continuing to teach new material. There's a different discussion to be had with kids in exams, so year 6 and year 11s, but with all that up for grabs at the moment, I think it gives teachers and schools a bit of a license to focus more on the emotional aspects of learning. You know, question for everyone: can you learn if you're in a bad mood? I know I can't.
It's interesting you say. I was being asked recently about a set of people going into different schools and trying to pick a school during COVID, and you know, you can't go on a tour, what difference does it make, etc., etc. And I was actually pointing to the recovery curriculums or the non-recovery curriculums at that point, in terms of that actually will tell you a lot about the school's culture. Some schools have actually feel that there's, you know, some missed learning that's happened, so we need to catch up with it and rush through. And some schools are actually saying, look, the children's mental well-being is the most important thing, let's get that back up to speed. But yeah, I think just in this period in and of itself, that says a lot more about cultural schools. But hopefully the tools, like some of the people are saying in the comments, I think you've touched upon a nerve there. Some people are given technology and told, there you go, get on with it, see you later.
Yeah, and you know, I think it's often,
thank you, Rebecca, thank you, Kate, thank you, Anna.
No one needs to be told that teachers are backs against the wall. They have very little budget, very little time. They need plug, and I guess let's show people Tuition Kit, because teachers don't need to know more stuff, they just need time to practice. But at least if you just show them all this free material, it just saves them having to spend hours. You know, my sister-in-law teaches in a school where I now live, in a school not too far away, and she's teaching a second subject, and she's been teaching almost 20 years. And I know when I've taught second subjects, you know, and I'm talking from a secondary perspective here, and I know primary teachers do this every day, so they are truly champions. But you can feel like an NQT all over again. So she's teaching health and social care way outside her PE specialism to a degree. But she's having to create entire curriculums and schemes of work, and only because her curriculum was so short notice that she's, despite her experience, working night and day to catch up. So she's looking for resources such as Tuition Kit and anything else just to be able to plug and play, so she can get on with the mechanics of teaching kids at least some initial knowledge of the curriculum within that specification, to then just get on with the stuff that she may be able to do through her own experience. Yeah, you're so right. I mean, and that's what I was touching upon just here in this previous slide, that second phase teaching. So much exists. We don't have to do the first phase of teaching and try and, I don't believe, as much, especially remotely, to pass on that first stage of knowledge. In the second phase of teaching, where we're looking at assessing, feedback, marking, I think we can be much more effective there if we're not going over the quote-unquote basics. And that's really what Tuition Kit is really there for, colleagues. So really appreciate your kind words on it, Ross. And essentially, we started out on YouTube and we moved to a commercial product. And I guess the best way to think about it is, what would happen if YouTube was a little more shaped for learning? And I'm going to just show you, I'm going to share my screen here, and just, if you could help me out here, colleagues, just let me know if you have, if you can see my screen. You should be able to see something that says Tuition Kit and Teacher Central. Yeah, I can see it. You can, does that come across for you? I'm just going to see it, but, delivering GCSE English, maths, and need to obtain bubbles and vocational. But can you just confirm if you can see this crazy, almost infinity thing going on, colleagues? Just a yes. Brilliant. Everything's coming through. Fantastic. Thank you for the little dance, Ross. To keep everyone engaged. Yeah, essentially, colleagues, I won't bore you too much with it. As you probably guessed, it's a video platform. We've got a load of content on there, but it's got everything for English, math, science, functional skills, and GCSE, and everything for A-level maths. But the part that's of interest really is the teacher tools, and this is what I'd want to draw your attention to. Now, there's a few really simple tools that make life a little bit easier. Let's say I was going to teach one of the subjects we have. This is free, yes, Leon, isn't it? It's free. Yeah, it's completely free, yes. It's completely free. There's no catches. There's no catches. No, there's nothing. We were lucky. I think just in explaining that quickly, we were very lucky in that one of our other products worked really well with the teacher training. So we had the choice of making something free, and just with the way the world was with regards to COVID, it was a real popular place
a real popular decision for us. It's something we want to do to help. We've helped hundreds of thousands of people, but we're hoping now that in the next 2 years, we can make it better. And obviously with something like Oak Academy, which I'm a big fan of existing, I think it's brilliant in terms of resources. And I think this is just has a few additions in terms of tools for teachers, which hopefully I'll show you now. So here I'm logged in as a teacher, just to give you an idea. And like with most things, as you could probably imagine, I've got my student list and I can see my students. But what becomes a little more powerful, especially during COVID, is let's say I have a problem with GCSE maths, and bang, tomorrow COVID's happened again and we're all on lockdown, and I was in the middle of algebra, let's say. So if I go into my algebra, as you can see, I can pick by board. Let's just say I want to give them algebra, and I know the school's going to be on lockdown for 2 weeks. So you see, I've just added that and it's got a green tick. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a learning schedule. Now, nice and easy, all I have to do is click the tick, and then I'm just going to call this COVID lockdown work. And I'm going to pick which days of the week I want my students to do the work, and I'm going to pick how long I want them to do it for. So I'm just going to pick 30 days here. And what I do there is I just pick a student or a number of students or a class. I just pick 2 just to show you demonstration. I'll pick that, and then the work, once I've clicked create, it will go directly to those students. Now what that means is, just make it for myself just so you can see it, the student will get an instant pop-up which will allow them to, which will allow them to have a clear example of a weekly board that's been set up for them. So on this one to the right just here, I'm logged in as a student. So I'm just going to go to the home page, and then you'll see that I have some revision schedules already set up for me.
Liam, we've got one comment. Can you make your screen bigger for people to see the details?
Yeah, fantastic. I'll do that now. Just make it a little bigger. Apologies for that. Does that?
Yeah, that's good.
Brilliant. So if I go into here, if I go into as a student, I can make one as well. It's probably just easier if I just make it here. So if I pick A-level maths, I'm just going to do the same thing again, just made it really hyper big here. And you just see I'm just picking items from my calendar, anything that exists, and I'll just call it work 2 or work demo. And I can say, make that 30 days, and I'm going to do it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays for some reason. I create that schedule, and what you see happens is, hopefully it's coming up big enough and clear enough. You see here, just on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, it's broken up any work for me that I've been set onto those days. So if you're looking to set work in a very structured way over the COVID period, that's going to be able to help you do that. So that's one kind of benefit that's useful for you and your class. And then you can track what your student completes and doesn't complete, and it kind of tallies and progresses. Now, the other main thing, which is the thing that people use this for the most, if I was to say, like you said there, I'm not a subject specialist, so I'm going to go to history on YouTube. For GCSE on YouTube, and I can go to this revised history channel. Now again, assuming that it's someone I already like, someone I already know, I'm going to go to this a long time ago, this GCSE nerd.
It's the 18th century.
Anything I want to take now, I can actually take any YouTube
it's the
video,
year 1000,
and I can bring it in. So I just go to YouTube, I bring that in, and then I'm able to go to my videos as a student or as a teacher. I add a video. I'm just going to make this one bigger again for the colleagues watching. And you can see I can actually bring in anything I want, a single video, a playlist, or an entire channel. And I just bring that in. So I paste it in, and you'll see now it's going to live inside the system, and exactly the same. I can make a category so I can choose where I put it. Obviously I haven't got a history one, but I'll just add it into maths for the time being. When I save that video and I go to see it, you'll see in exactly the same way it now lives inside the system.
Now, Leon, you showed me something really cool earlier. If I miss a lesson or you want to set Ross a particular question from the video, could you just show teachers how easy they can do that? To demonstrate that they've watched it, or they need to check up on a misconception, so to speak.
Yeah, super. So if I go into any video and I want to add a question, and you see these little red dots here, they're questions that I've already preloaded. I'm just going to go to the end of the video.
Carry the one again,
and
16.
If I press an audio event, for example, I am going to pick the student that I want to share it with, so I can make it very specific if I so wished. And all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to record a question for them to hear. So I'll put in the question, how many eggs in a dozen? Or how many in a dozen? Or whichever way around. You can see I wasn't a maths. Oh, sorry, I didn't stop the video. I'll just put that there. And how many in a dozen? And so let's put question 1, stop the recording. And what will happen afterwards is I will get these pop-ups into different parts of the video.
So I put it there. Okay.
That will just jump up with different kinds of questions and links where the student can answer. So because my microphone is being used by the broadcasting software, it can't also be used by this system here. So it's not a great one on a live, but thankfully I can say here's one.
Got a couple of questions box, Leon. Does the YouTube integration work with MS Stream? And James has also got a question on the pricing plans on the website versus this free version.
The pricing plans on the website is historic, and so there are no pricing plans at all now. So if there is something old on the website, forgive me, it might just be a caching problem. We'll need to refresh that. But in terms of what we stream with it at the moment, we work with Vimeo and we work with YouTube. But if there's any suggestions, it's quite straightforward for us to be able to bring different items in. So we can do that on the things that are popular. But the most popular one by far has been YouTube. But we'd happily take any suggestions on other integrations to work with as well. But I hope in this way that you can see you can bring in a range of different items, any subjects you want.
You can add, documents, PowerPoint links. If I've created a set of slides already, can I integrate them into this platform?
Yeah. So if we just take yeah, that's a really good question. Thanks again for asking. So we built another tool for colleagues here. So say you do have a PowerPoint, like this is the PowerPoint obviously I made for this presentation. And what we have here, we made something called Screenrock. And Screenrock is a small tool which allows you to just record over your PowerPoint. So I'm just going to do that now. It's an extension. I'll put the link in the website at the end. But what it allows you to do is to talk over something, also to make it act like a whiteboard. So you can circle items, you can point to items, etc. And the beautiful thing is that you don't have to download anything. Once you press stop and save, that video is instantly available as a hyperlink for you to share or to upload or to stream from. See there, you see it's actually going up into our cloud. That'll just take a minute or two. And once that's done, I'll be able to chop and share that. And that's how quickly you can make videos and work with videos in that.
Got the link in the chat box. So this, you could also annotate a child's work on here, couldn't you? And upload their recording of how you mark the student's work.
Yeah, that's exactly what we built it with that in mind, because marking, especially for English, because you used to be an English teacher, was one way that you could actually do that. It's so much easier and quicker to be able to do that than to do it elsewhere. So there, see, that's nearly complete. Obviously, it's not instantaneous just because those would be the glory days. But the video we just made will be up there in a second, and that's how quickly you could put it up into a system to share with students if you so wished.
You've got another question from Anna. Leon, what do you do with the pupils' emails in terms of integrating the connectivity between the teacher and the kids?
So the main item, I'm just going to stop the screen because it's actually making me feel sick, that whole background. Is that better now? That was making me feel sick for a second. So yeah, what happens is we have a form for teachers. We just send it to you and you will just say how many teacher codes you want, how many student codes you want, and then we share that across with everyone. I'll put that up in the bit as well. So yeah, it's just a code. You will have a code for the students to use to access, and then you're aligned to them. So it's really, really simple. And obviously with everyone, we also offer a 15-minute onboarding, which you can come back to us as many times as you want, because we just want people to use and like it. I don't think the future of education or education delivery is going to be about, I know this and I'll share it with you. It will be much more a case of, let's direct everyone towards this knowledge, and then my teaching ability will be at the back end, personalizing and tailoring.
I've got a couple of questions. Can you think of a school that's using your platform really well and maybe explain why and how? And then can you also think of a school that's not using it well and maybe reasons why?
Yeah, so one of the best use cases that we had with our items was in some of the large colleges. And they basically had a great use of it because they needed to do retakes for English and maths. And so they were in a situation where whatever board you were coming in from, whichever you'd been in your school, you had all the different resources for English and maths there. I'll give you another one where we were with Kent County Council. One of the problems they had a long time ago was when they had a lot of migrant children and they needed to have a lot more English practice. We were able to bring in swathes of pre-recorded, YouTube-ready, ESL and EFL videos from other teachers that they were able to use straight away, rather than being in a situation where they had to create all the resources. So that was ones that went really, really well. Now, genuinely on this, we had 100% reusage or re-sign-up rate for the products we kept. So the biggest problem we have is always onboarding within the school. And so that's always been a massive issue for any tech company, really, is how do you make sure that people feel that that they want to keep using it? And the big thing around that is making sure that there's something really useful in it for people, making sure that people feel, yes, this is a tool that can aid me a little bit, that can help me direct, that can help me help my learning. And that's the key thing. That's I'd say was the biggest problem. It's always
I know that the kind of biggest struggle for potentially teachers watching is to convince their school leaders. So I'll put you on the spot. We haven't rehearsed this. Three or four reasons why how teachers could sell this to their school leadership. One, it's free, so I've given you one answer for free.
Well, that's the beauty of it. I think it doesn't need your school. It's the same as you signing up to your own Dropbox account or anything. Obviously.
Yeah, but I do know there'll be some teachers watching from certain types of schools that will have quite a safeguarding radar on compared to some others, and they'll need to follow due diligence in terms of importing students' emails, that type of stuff. And
that's another one of the beautiful things. If you so wish to just allow your students to have access to these items, you can just share it with them and ask them to go and log in themselves. They don't have to be linked to you. The second thing that's really, really important, outlining it, is the range of scheduling features, especially with COVID. You've been able to set up timetables for support. You can set up teacher CPD on there. So there's a lot of range of things that you can do that. But the key thing is you use it at the level that you want. If you just want to share it with someone and say, get on with it, great. If you want to actually set it up so you've got pop-up questions coming up in class, coming up in lessons, that's kind of the gamut of where you can run. But really, the beautiful thing about it being free is not that we don't care what you do with it. It's much more a case of it's yours now. It's yours now. Give it the life that you think it deserves to help the people that you think need it most. And for some people, it might not be the right tool. And we're very, we acknowledge that. I look at the Oak Academy, for example, and I think it's just a superb set of resources where you become a semi-expert in a lot of things. Mm-hmm. The organization of how you get it and how you assess probably isn't as good as the content. But again, that was made.
People like a picture of the types of schools, and locations that are using this: primary schools, secondary.
So all of the ones that we have at the moment are secondary and colleges because of the nature of the content that we used to sell. But now that it's become a free product, the tools and obviously the sister tools such as Screenrock, which is free, and using GoVidigo as well, which is a portal which helps with training, is free. So a lot of the items out there now are just really based around secondary because that's who we used to sell to. But hopefully we're going to open more and more to primary schools and to different levels in different countries as well. Because I think we do 50-50 in England and the world. Like a lot of half of our customers are in the rest of the world.
And kind of just a bit more data. How many kind of active users on a daily or weekly basis? And
lockdown spiked it, but we've got about 6,000 daily users on we had about 6,000 daily users up till about September. And since we've come back, our teacher training products have been a lot more popular again because a lot of teachers are going back, doing their safeguarding and catching up with different things.
We know it's for free. Does it save teachers time? Give me some insights. And what impact does it have on kids? What are your school users already telling you?
So on average, we see the people that are using it have about a 10% improvement in grades. So generally, we're looking at a grade above. Because we run a lot of tuition and private tuition, we message our own users straight after the exam periods. Did you get the results you want? We just send out a form. How much do you think it helped? How much did you use it? And we can track the usage on that. So generally, we find that there's about a 10% increase, which isn't huge, but it does make those little differences where you get more structured and deserved help or more clear help. But in terms of it being a world-changing item, I believe, and that's one of the other reasons we made it free. It's just another tool. What we found, it's a really good tool for those who want to use it.
What benefits would you say parents and maybe even governors can have from this kind of stuff?
I think you get the assurance that you've got the quality materials from teachers in the first place, but obviously that's been phased out a little because there's so much free stuff out there as a response to COVID. And I think the second one is just organisation. If governors were looking to actually trying to set up a COVID-based plan around remote learning and they wanted it to be timed and scheduled by day and they had control over it, I think that's one of the key constraints.
And feedback from parents?
Yeah, the parents are normally the ones paying for it. So thankfully, whenever we've had a parent, invest the time and money into what we do against what everything else that's out there, and it was very good value for money because it was only £45. How it sits with them, £45 for a year. How it sits with them now is a completely free product, and we're doing some free parenting courses to go alongside this to help people when the next lockdown and COVID break comes. So we're going to hopefully that's going to be really useful for them.
Now, I've got a big fascination with teacher workload. What can Sunday night marking, all that kind of craziness. Is there a features in there that where I can automate and schedule certain things to happen at certain times for kids?
Yeah, the schedule in terms of putting out the work is there, and there are worksheets with a range of the different maths items in particular, so you can set that up. However, the most important thing in saving you time is that the system allows you to do flipped learning out of maybe more popular or more easy to access YouTube stuff than you would have done. So if you set that up in the scheduler to come up on the lesson, just before your lesson or a couple of days before your lesson as you so wish, that could be one of the key things that saves you time.
Okay, very good. So has anyone got any questions in the chat box that I haven't asked on your behalf?
And you really read me on really nicely to my next slide.
Yeah, there. That was more about the parent evening. On my travels, so I've been to about 250 schools now in 15 countries around the world, just the last couple of years before lockdown. And when I survey teachers on workload, marking's the number one issue. But interestingly, obviously particular school seasons, and this is prior to lockdown, was school reports and emails were another great burden. And there's one or two schools that I'm actually discovering are now using digital reports. I've often said we traditionally spend weeks writing reports, get it proofread, print it on paper, post them home. Kids don't pick them up, parents don't read them, or we don't know. We then get them to come and collect them at parents' evening. Again, we still don't know if they read them, but at least with a digital solution, if you've got a voice recording or a little video from Ross talking about the student, you can at least log in and see if Mr. McGill, the parent, has listened to the video or the voice recording and has actually listened to it until the end or read it. And I think those analytics would be very useful for schools. What kind of benefits does this have for parents or like you've got there, or parents' evenings?
Well, that was one of the key things. So with the schedule, what I always found, and I don't know if you felt the same when you were teaching, what I always found with parents' evening, it was great to meet the parents, but I don't feel that my time with them was very effective because it's 5-7 minutes. I might know exactly intrinsically what this child needs in front of me, but 5 to 7 minutes to kind of push that on wasn't really help. Mm-hmm. So one of the key things I was always thinking of when we made this piece of software was, if you came to me and you said, I only got 5 minutes and I really need to help little Johnny with his English or Rahul with his English, etc., I find myself in a situation where now with tuition kit, I could literally say, well, here's the entire course. I can pick the exact parts that you need. I want you to do that over the 3 weeks, and you can share the logins in a way that, if you so wish, but obviously becomes more complicated, the parents can have access as well. So with one of our products, Exam Marker, it's actually always a triangle. The teacher, the parent, and the student are all aware of the progress at the same time. But that one's very specifically.
Sorry, we're all living in a kind of 24/7 social media era. Connectivity, those types of things. Can you track from a school or a teacher admin level if parents log in, if Ross the child logs in?
Not on this system, no, because of the GDPR, the data that we would have to have from everyone in that one, no. But in other systems we have, yes. Okay. It's just in this one, because it was free, because it's fast. Right. We didn't set it up that way because obviously you have to have permission from everyone in the chain.
Okay.
As anyone knows who's onboarded anything in schools, trying to get a parent and a child and a teacher and a senior leader to all sign up to different things, you're just...
as an initial free service for people to use, it's a great resource.
You're right. It's very COVID specific in that, in terms of our users in India probably total about 40,000, nearly 8% of the people that use it, and everyone's suffering the same problem around the world. So if we tried to push and share our teaching resources around the world, that wouldn't work, because America's different, Australia's different, but the A levels and the GCSEs are done everywhere. So it's all very, very similar, and I feel it would have the widest reach.
I'm going to pop a video up here because I keep looking down. I want to look up. So. I don't know if there's any questions from anyone else, but if it gives you some reassurance, the head teachers I'm talking to in schools around the world, the teachers that I'm talking to online, everyone's going through the same weirdness. We don't know how long it's going to last. We know it's certainly going to go on for many more months. And it's just about, keeping the people around you well looked after, obviously abiding by the guidance, doing your absolute best to do what you can in school, but also at home, kind of shutting down, looking after yourself, those types of things. So I certainly know that that's how the vast majority of people are feeling. And I'm sure you know this already, everyone. But there, and I'm sure there's a lot of people watching from different parts of the country and world. But there's lots of services out there for teachers as well. At least here in England, the Education Support Partnership I recommend, which is a 24/7 teacher mental health charity if you want someone to talk to. But I'm hoping you've also got someone in your schools, your school leadership, that are also looking after you and your mental health, as well as you looking after yourself and your own families and your kids. But that's certainly the state of the nation from what I can see.
And I think with things like this and the things that you're doing, so many people, it's going to be a real support towards the GCSE, towards teacher training, towards mental health, towards returning to schools, towards preparing for COVID. And we've all got to do a little bit of our bit, really, as much as we can, to try and make sure that we're helping the profession, and to try and make sure, obviously, that we're helping the learners and the parents every turn and every step.
Yeah, and then just kind of some additional kind of fleeting thoughts is, pretty much anything and everything has switched to remote, virtual open evenings, virtual interviews, pretty much everything that we've ever done in schools has to do remotely. I also suspect many people are, perhaps through the start of lockdown, were consumed with a huge, enormous amount of virtual meetings to try and keep up to date, keep everyone in the loop, and all the initial mute and unmute and video and chat box, but we should all be pretty much competent at it now, I hope, and we've learned a few more etiquette behaviors. But if you're using Zoom, Microsoft, Google, your school leadership should have all those kind of protocols in place, and they should be clear for kids, parents, as well as your staff. And if you do find yourself at home, look after your own safeguarding protocols and procedures, protect yourself.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more, buddy. You got to look after yourself, because if you're not in the right situation and place, it's going to fail and hurt.
Got a question from Rebecca. Maximum 200 students per school?
No, not really. We just set it up as 200. Rebecca, we've only set it up for 200 there just because we were thinking about people doing it in departments. But obviously, in the form at the bottom, you can say how many people that you want it for. It's not a problem at all. We just put 200 simply because generally when you think of a year group, it's around 200. So we just put it that so people didn't think about it in terms of 20,000 and the rest.
So just a couple more questions, keep you on your toes. Where is this kind of platform going to next? If this is the free version, what's kind of the next part of the development to upscale? Well,
the teacher training was the one that really took off, and we got into hundreds of schools with that, and that's proven very, very effective. And it was just a higher end product. If you imagine, if you're selling QTS at £6,000 and a GCSE at £45, but essentially you're just making video courses, like the business model makes sense for itself. But we're actually, we did really well in China as well, and we're moving more into the medical field. So in the same way that we train teachers, we're also moving to training doctors now. So we're doing some preliminary work with GPs, and we've sold off the teacher training element to Osiris Education, one of the most one of the largest ones in the UK, one of the most reputable, really, really high stuff. And so we've done a course there. If anyone's interested, stuff with John Hattie and people of the like. So please check out Osiris Digital and the KMB1 site. We're going to be doing some really new and cool stuff there.
Great. We've got
your course on soon. Don't forget.
Smart Plan Teach, and I've got my new updated copy coming out, and it's just been endorsed by Professor Andy Hargreaves, which I'm delighted about. He wrote an endorsement, and I read it last night. He wrote far too much, but it was a great thing to read, so we're just working out which parts to keep. But that comes out in January, and I'm delighted that you're going to host all the videos, which is a great kind of CPD tool for teachers. To reduce workload, improve teacher well-being, improve the impact. I guess with a COVID twist now, trying to adapt those strategies for an online world is very interesting also. Yeah,
but your resources are great as well. And I think that's where we realised we're good. We're very good at the tech and being the engine behind something. Well, we're not. There's no point us trying to be experts in every part of education. Let's be really good here and then work with people like you, like Osiris, and like bring all the brilliant content and just be able to deliver it in a new way. But
so you mentioned primary schools, more specifically secondary. Are there primary schools maybe using it at year 6 kind of age, 10-year-olds, 9-year-olds?
They're 100%. If you consider your resource bank as YouTube, really what we are is that YouTube on steroids. So you can add the questions, make scheduling, so parents and teachers from any age can use and do it. When I was in lockdown with my children, I have a 4-year-old son, and for whatever I've ever done in teaching, I realized I can't teach anyone who doesn't know how to read. And it was the first time I'd ever kind of been struck with my son can't read yet, he's 4. And I was like, well, what do I do? And so we used YouTube videos a lot. And also just for the peace of mind for all the children, everyone had a timetable, everyone had scheduled videos, so everyone knew when things were coming. And it just made everything seem manageable rather than interminable and a mess and a chaos.
Mm-hmm.
So the scheduling feature is genuinely one of the key. If you use nothing else, organize the work with the scheduling feature so everyone knows what's coming and what's being done.
So for teachers watching, we've got 23 people still watching. As soon as this webinar finishes, how many seconds would it take them to create an account and start playing?
To start playing as a teacher, about 10. Sorry, as a student. And it's really important to jump in as a student. It doesn't matter because your email can be reset when you have the codes, but go in and just have a play around with some of the features that I showed you. And I'm sorry, I know that sounds exactly like some of the criticisms we had earlier. It's just like, oh yeah, there you go, there it is. Now go and become an expert yourself. We're more than happy. There's a lot of knowledge-based videos to help and guide you through that. But the key thing is just looking at the content that's on there and then setting up a few schedules, seeing how easy it is, and then coming back to us. And everything is on the knowledge base as well.
Have you got some demos that people can copy or watch, like a YouTube demo, or maybe
on the Tuition Kit account? On the Tuition account, if you go to the knowledge base, I'm just getting the link for that now. That will give you an instructional ideas on how each one of them is, so you get to know how to do it before you've actually logged in and done it. So I'm just going to share that one in there now. So yeah, if you go to the knowledge base, it's got a load of videos and instructions and demos on how you do different things.
Okay. So any questions, folks? I thought we'd have a little game of Tic Tac Toe while we wait for any more questions. Keep the engagement. I'm going to go here.
Tic Tac Toe. I always call this noughts and crosses, but yeah. Oh, okay. Sorry, buddy. Try again. I won't steal your space. I won't steal your space. Tic Tac Toe. Never heard of that before.
Okay, I'm there. Where are you going to go?
Well, it will have to be there, I suppose.
Okay. Okay, I'm going up there.
It makes life really easy. So
there's only one place.
No. Can't see what happened. Oh no.
Yeah, now you've had it. Right.
It's a great thing we can do that. You know what I mean? It's just like the league in France. No one won.
So any questions, anybody? It's free. You just need time to practice, get all your resources in place. I'm excited. All my videos are going to be on there soon to help teachers with their professional development. Keep up the amazing work. And thanks, Liam, for showing us everything that you've done.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Ross, and thanks for all the colleagues for coming in. Thanks for colleagues for coming in. Really happy to be on board. Please just sign in, log in, and just message us with any details. Really look forward to speaking to anyone soon. And remember, genuinely, it is completely free, and you can bring a range of videos on there, and that's where the power is. If you bring in the videos from YouTube like Mr. Bruff, Primrose Kitten, free science lessons, you can, the world is your oyster. Rintoul chemistry. I mean, there's brilliant stuff on there. All right, thank you so much, guys. Really look forward to connecting with you again. I have to thank my colleague James for being on there as well. So apologies for not introducing you at the beginning, James. Forgive me. Thanks a lot, Ross. And yeah, I look forward to the next webinar, Ross. Well, hopefully we'll be pushing and explaining the benefits of Mark Plan Teach.
Yeah, and I'll beat you at Tic Tac Toe again. I'm not in cross position. So.
God bless you, buddy. Stay safe. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.